so welcome to the video where I'm going to describe my opinion about very popular media, and you're either the type that's going to be, I agree, or no, this is wrong, you're wrong. Spoiler alert. Fight about it in the comments, I don't care. Since many of the Disney Renaissance films are objectively so high on the tier of good movies, it's hard to distinguish all of them beyond just personal preferences, so there's another spoiler or something, I guess? Disclaimer. It's also a good way to get to know your friendly content creator lady that you've either known since the beginning of time, randomly discovered recently, or just remember existed. Subscribe. Pocahontas. I'll poke your Hannes. I mean serious video, sorry. This is probably the one where everyone said, sure, Jeffrey Katzenberg, sure. This is a great idea, having a historical protagonist and romanticizing the horrible events that happened in our life to make an unconvincing narrative that confuses generations for several years. What could possibly go wrong?
Beauty and the Trail of Tears, or as it's known in the American localized version, Pocahontas.
From a more business perspective, adapting historical sources in a way that isn't accurate undermines the whole point of historical characters. I think that's the big advantage that Avatar had, the Blue People one, by taking the concept and turning it into an original story. I mean, that's a whole different thing, as the characters don't really have a lot of personality compared to the spectacle they are in. Maybe we're getting too meta about this real fast, I'm not sure. The only thing I know is I don't remember any of the actual characters in the Avatar movie. There's Girl Avatar and Guy Avatar, and then there's Unobtainium. I don't know, don't ask an artist about chemistry unless it's Breaking Bad related. I'm not sure why Disney is continually trying to push this though. It seems to be a little less in our faces with the turn of the century, but also because of the things that people already like. And then Frozen. I mean, have you seen the costume for Radcliffe? It gives me nightmares.
Polka without hunters!
All that being said, it's definitely a pretty film, and some parts can be really enjoyable. I'm kind of sad to say that Radcliffe or Thomas are probably the characters that get the most development. When the villain and minor characters get more screen time, then there might be a problem with your movie. The sequel at least fleshes these things out a little bit more and is kind of enjoyable. Plus the animation doesn't look like hot garbage, so there's that. Expectations, what are those? Oh, look at that, they replaced Mel Gibson with his brother.
You look like a honey, and if you get raped by a pack, it'll be your fault.
Don't be anti-Semitic. Rescuers Down Under. I'll start out by saying a lot of people seem to really like this movie just because it's better than the original, but I still find this movie incredibly boring, and a little less boring than the original. But this film doesn't get a fair shake. The Rescuers franchise, if that's what you want to call two whole movies, probably isn't remembered too fondly because, again, it's a little boring. It doesn't really have a fairy tale setting. I mean, I don't think Cinderella would be as fun from just the mouse perspective. Where's that Disney live-action spin-off? I mean, they did try that, but I don't think it worked out that well. Don't watch Cinderella 2, guys. It's bad. Nowadays, you probably only heard of The Rescuers if you grew up with it, or googled some X-rated things that are actually in Disney films, and congrats, you found the only legit one that exists. What a good use of your time. But I'm always a sucker for the underrated film, and this has some great shots of an eagle. You like eagles? The film has a sweet and self-contained story. It's about the environment! But admittedly, it doesn't have the strongest story, and the uninitiated might get some Kangaroo Jack vibes. You know they made an animated movie with Kangaroo Jack? Is God dead? Does he want us to suffer? But for those who have never heard of this film and want a fun distraction from just like, you know, everything, I would give it a chance if you like some stunning animation or just want a chance for a cute mouse couple OTP. Seriously, they are adorable. Ship them hard. Tarzan. So this is a weird one. It's not dating too hot. Points for wanting to induct Jane as a Disney princess, but then realizing she's too similar to Belle and now she's just not there. She's fine. I'm still in the camp that Esmeralda should be a Disney princess, but no one listens to me. And before you tell me she's not an official princess, Mulan is an official princess either. Like, come at me. I can't put my finger on it. The film is fun, but fails to really engage in a way that makes it a larger sense of timelessness and staying power of the audience. Why is that? Probably the failings of the music, as well as Tarzan himself feeling a little distant from the audience in a way that I can't really articulate that well. Jane is adorable though, but similar to Pocahontas, I feel like her themes of environment and respecting nature seem a little bit too surface level, that it's almost simplified. Points for Clayton having a really dark death, though. That one is kind of bad. But for the record, people are still having a positive experience with this film. The lame Tarzan treehouse is still in Disneyland, I guess. And like Pocahontas, Disney is trying to pull feelers out to see if the general public has equated Tarzan to, like, some deeper meaning about society or the human condition or something. But kind of getting results. Besides the Broadway play, it was in that game that people seem to care about, and has a series that no one remembers. I think the overall problem with Tarzan having a Jungle Land and Kingdom Hearts is that jungle is too generic to really get people going. Like, it doesn't have its own mythology like Atlantis or Agrabah. It's just a jungle. With Disney's Tarzan, used with permission.
After all, the jungle is a dangerous place.
Same with the animated series. Do you remember this? No one remembers this. The only time I get reminded of its existence is when music video YouTubers need extra animated characters for their song story things and have to mask out the cat lady from the Tarzan TV series, and I'm like, oh right, that was a thing that existed? Put it this way, Tarzan himself isn't really an interesting character, as well as the general public with the music kind of messing with the tone and it being unclear if it's diegetic or not. Is this from Tarzan's perspective? Sometimes, I guess. Does it describe the mood? I don't know. This movie has some just general problems. We'll leave it at that. Mulan. Now, unlike all the other entries on this list that are totally made up, that isn't a definitive list of definitively, is that a word? We have to consider how these films have aged by keeping in mind how big of a push there was to sell the live-action Mulan, even though it was a shady and morally confusing choice that made me go, aw man.
Oh man!
Maybe don't make morally questionable deals with China there, Disney. You know, communism. It's fine. This is fine. I mean, it's not like the movie was that bad.
Disney's Mulan live-action adaptation sucks.
The worst Disney live-action remake of all time.
Have you ever seen a movie that pissed you off so badly you make a whole YouTube channel just to roast it?
Disney's Mulan? More like Disney move on from making live-action remakes because they all f***ing
Oh, come on, Disney. How do you get out-pandered by Michael Bay?
Well, that was fun. This probably shouldn't have gotten approved. Regardless, people seem to really appreciate the tone of the original movie. Even though it is pretty westernized in humor and has a lot of other things, the tone of the film seems to have been a loving, empathetic tone to its characters. And like Simba, Mulan's problems are bigger than just finding a breeding partner. I mean, the breeding partner thing is kind of like an added bonus. I mean, when you're going to an all-exclusive boy camp full of naked boys, you might just like one if you're assumed straight. And I know it's not said that often, but this courtship is kind of awkward and weird. Like, for half of the movie, Shang thinks that Mulan is a guy, which is fine. It doesn't matter, but there's just some confusion about what's going on pacing-wise. Does Mulan have a crush on Shang as the movie progresses? Do they both develop a crush on each other after the gender reveal? It's hard to really break down these parts of their character development because we kind of have to guess at certain points about what's happening. And that is the part which I don't think people talk about enough. I always interpreted Shang crushing on her after she saves him from the avalanche, just my point of view, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Also, the music for this one is really good. Remember the catchy song that just stops mid-song when the group realizes that there's a brutal battle that they arrived late for that killed not only soldiers but innocent civilians plus its assumed children? It's a great and shocking moment and a great example of how a movie can do a complete 180 in tonal shift and handle it right. I mean, if you do look at the film objectively, it's a pretty dark movie, but most people forget that because the general tone we have when we hang out with the main characters is also Eddie Murphy. I like how he voices both Donkey from Shrek and Mushu, and no one ever compares those characters or even remembers that, so each performance is not tainted by the other. I don't know, the suspension of disbelief is a weird thing sometimes, Joe.
Oh, this is gonna be fun! We can stay up late, swapping manly stories, and in the morning, I'm making waffles.
Hercules! I'll start off by saying that this is my dad's favorite Disney movie. He's a sucker for Jewish representation, and Hades provides that with his Yiddish. Just don't look up James Woods the person unless you want your day ruined.
Even for you, that's cold.
Out of all the Disney films that seem to have a nostalgic effect despite the kind of problematic plot, this is probably on the list. I mean, millennials love this movie, which you can kind of pick up with the slow rise of young adult themed merch around the film, and now we have a new Meg doll. We got a whole bunch of specially targeted merch. I mean, this movie is enjoying a prominent rise to relevance as time goes on, probably based on the likability of the cast and the fact that their crazy big prophecy plot is the thing that is affecting most of the bad guy's actions and not his whole evilness thing. Good job, movie. Now let's get get back to the plot. This plot is so messy, let me tell you. We get a prophecy that depends on specific events happening. It consists of a super weird montage of a rise to fame, but parodied in a new age Greek style or something. A lot of gods are generally clueless about what's going on Earth, even though they're like gods. It has a lot of weird and specific references to Rocky, of all things, and the characters don't really shine or grow much as characters and don't really have their own arcs. Meg has the most significant character arc out of all the mains, but Hercules doesn't really change that much in his own movie. I would argue he does, but that's just my opinion. The concept of a real hero is more defined for the sake of the audience and the theme of the film than for Hercules himself. Hades as a villain is probably the nicest villain out there. I mean, he's only a villain due to the circumstances of the stupid Destiny plot or whatever. Go watch Lindsay's video if you want a more in-depth dissection, but of all the things to come out of this film, people still love Hades to the point that he's added to the most generic Disney villains merchandise, and he appears in a whole bunch of Disney media. And I will be the first to say I do have the PC Hercules game, and it is awesome. Look it up if you're curious. My dad actually had to email Disney Interactive in like 1998 because we couldn't figure out how to beat the Centaur level, and I'm getting off track. James Woods always comes back, by the way. Every single time. I mean, he can play Hades better than anyone else. What can I say? You might not want to have lunch with a villain like Scar, who gaslights children, but Hades seems kind of fun, not gonna lie. Did you know there was a whole awkward change myself for the girl episode in the House of Mouse with Hades as the guy and Maleficent as the girl he wants to impress? What other villain couples can hold and entertain a whole audience for a children's series and still be entertaining? I low-key think Disney is trying to find a way to reinvent these characters for a different and better scenario, and it's working. Another thing to consider is this was the frontrunner for Treasure Planet. This was the movie to prove that Mustard and Clements could be trusted with their own precious little baby project, and for the studio to invest in their success. Aladdin! Aladdin is probably best described as a basic movie structure featuring a protagonist character arc movie, and also a little bit of a ripoff of The Thief and the Cobbler with an actual better story.
That just sounds like
Aladdin
with extra steps!
I think that why we or you like to go back and watch internet reviews pick apart these movies is when they are generally at a ripe consuming age, we don't really notice or understand these character arcs until later. We just blindly watch the movie and don't really think about it. So the movie goes like this. Characters an outcast in some way, character shown to be good-hearted, character wants thing, character lies to keep thing, blows up in face, character makes big action in order to make up for thing, noted growth, and character does thing villain would never do. That being said, Aladdin overall probably has the strongest lore and even out characters. In a lot of ways, Jasmine is the antithesis of Ariel, refusing to marry a man she doesn't know, doesn't take anyone's shit, while Ariel has to hide her shit until it's too late, actively plays a role in her own story, and adapts quickly to being outside her comfort zone, while Ariel's whole thing is, not doing that. Well, the whole Aladdin franchise has probably the strongest addition to its main canon, even though our standards in animation are pretty low. But it's like focusing on character arcs and developing from the original story is like a good idea or something, instead of just having the equivalent of a filler TV episode. The series also gives Jasmine and some of the other characters a chance to be independent and show some of their qualities. Also, points that cast, the main Aladdin cast, minus the obvious rest in peace legend, always comes back for everything and is generally good sports about whatever Disney throws at them. From obscure PC games, to bad casting joke in Full House.
There's the lamp seller and Princess Jasmine. Steve!
To the obvious House of Mouse, to Jonathan Freeman, the voice of Jafar, reprising his role for the Broadway show. I think that's a really neat fact here. Good sports. Beauty and the Beast. This one I have a weird relationship with. I don't know why. For those who are new, Beauty and the Beast is considered the peak of the Disney Renaissance. Belle's likable and smart and generally good role model. The story itself has a really great message about loving people despite appearances, which corporate America still needs to learn. It's virtually flawless, but I just can't get into it as much as I want to appreciate such a great movie. I watched it recently, and the only conclusion that I came up with is maybe the timeline of the love story isn't maybe personally believable. If you pay close attention, it's assumed Belle became a prisoner sometime in the fall, with the events of the climax take place sometime in the spring. The cut song Human Again even has the servants cleaning up the snow, and I just personally don't feel like that's enough time for true love. What is that, like 4 months? I don't know, that's my only nitpick. And yes, the live action movie did suck. The mains had no chemistry.
I never thanked you for saving my life.
Well, I never thanked you for not leaving me to be eaten by wolves.
I I guess that's the thing about films. You can make the perfect movie, everything can hit the nose, the script can be tight, but not everyone is going to relate to it, unfortunately. That's the thing, and I guess my holdback is probably more aesthetically, but not critically. I hate having emotions. I just want to like Beauty and the Beast as much as I should.
You're going to love me!
The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This one I think is more important than just my personal takes. Of all the Disney canon, this one is considered probably most relevant and asks the real questions about society and what really is considered a good person or not a good person. I'll keep this one short because I like this one and I talk about it already, but the music is beautiful and fantastic. We need films like this in the age of just gross undereducation and sometimes general critical thinking. Plus, Esmeralda is awesome. Seriously, I'm not a doll person, but I own the expensive Disney designer Esmeralda that was released a little bit ago, and sometimes it is the only thing that brings me happiness in this uncertain world. Also, Frollo is a good villain, but you probably knew that already. Points for Esmeralda not falling for Quasimodo. He's fine, he gets a girlfriend in the sequel. And we already saw Beauty and the Beast, we don't need to see it again. The Little Mermaid. I feel like out of all the Disney films on this list, this film probably has the most simplistic story tied to it, but is also the one I personally relate to, like, my whole life. Ariel is and will always be my favorite Disney princess. Yes, the technically correct answer is probably Belle, because she's more thoughtful and well-read and the as well as probably having some very selfless qualities about herself. But Ariel's where it's at for me. I think I really came out of the womb loving this mermaid, especially her design. I mean, these kind of colors never work, but they work on her and they're the best. Her motivations about getting a man that she apparently never has problems with after their marriage is a little bit iffy, but she is 16, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but she's such an idiot. She just ruined the whole party. Everything. She just ruined everything.
I relate with her and her love for things she doesn't understand, animation being my thing, as well as her passions and her dreamlike demeanor. She doesn't fit in, and neither do I, if we're being real. I still don't really. And even if you don't like Ariel, you can't lie that some of the songs down to the lyrics are just brilliant and packed, even though the particular movie doesn't have a lot, character arcs. And who doesn't like Sebastian? I mean, he's great. He's the most likable Karen that ever existed.
Can we be real? If my name was Sebastian and I had a cool Jamaican accent, you'd totally help me. You would, you know you would.
I'm not sure what else to add, but I'll add 2 little side stories. Most Halloweens when I was a wee child, I was Ariel. One time I even jumped the fence at my parents' old house to go swimming in my Little Mermaid costume when I was like 3. I don't have any pictures of that, but here is a Disneyland trip where I get to see Ariel. As for the sequels, yes, it really sucks and is really repetitive, I know. But no one ever talks about this little gem where Scuttle shows up out of nowhere and he's like treated as a joke because both now Ariel and Flounder have realized how full of shit he was the whole time, and even Flounder is like, sure Jan, sure. It's the little moments, I guess. The Lion King. Let me just get this right off the bat. The Lion King, in my opinion, is probably the best of the Disney canon, period. I'll keep this short and more about my experience with the movie because we touch on The Lion King a lot here, but if you've been watching me for a long time, you've probably seen subtle hints about my attitude and general sense of being changed post-PTSD KP. I've always loved this movie, but it has had a deeper impact on me since then, and why I relate to Simba so much, the point of just having so many Lion King shirts. So many. It's really bad, yo. Simba as a character has everything going against him. Not only is he consumed with the guilt that he killed his father, but he's gaslit by Scar himself to think that.
And if it weren't for you, he'd still be alive.
Simba has a real, hard, tangible problem to face if he chooses to go back. Something that many adults, kind of the same circumstances, would avoid if possible. People at the time were in awe that Disney really did kill off the lovable lion dad in order to forward the plot. Kind of the equivalent of the twist in the first Frozen, but better.
Oh, Anna. If only there was someone out there who loved you.
Simba has to find the personal strength to face the hardest point in his life and take responsibility. He's also had enough of Scar's BS.
Give me one good reason why I shouldn't rip you apart.
I've always admired Simba's personal strength and his ability to lead, even if he makes some very human-like errors.
Exile!
Simba is my PTSD spirit animal. He's affected by it, but he doesn't let it get in the way of responsibilities. The other part of the film I've noticed is how certain scenes develop the characters even after the opening scene. The Mufasa and Scar scene displays their relationship and how, even though Mufasa doesn't like Scar's attitude, he doesn't seem as a threat, which turns out he is one. Sorry, Mufasa.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Simba in the Elephant Graveyard establishes Mufasa's vulnerability to Simba, as well as segmenting the scene of guidance, as well to reveal Scar is actually, like, the worst. He's fun, but killing your brother and gaslighting your child is the worst. The Lion King has helped me through a lot personally, as well as just being a fantastic film. Timon and Pumbaa plus the first song is probably the weakest points, but both work to develop the plot. I really love Simba. Please buy me all the Simba merch. It's given me my own soundtrack to face my own fears, as well as trying to understand my purpose as I move forward and hopefully become a vocal leader in the animation community. Just keep on spreading the good word, guys. So what do you think? What are your favorite Disney films? Let me know in the comments and I might read them. I don't know if I feel like it. And please remember to share this video and like and subscribe. Turn your notifications on. It really makes me feel good when people are consuming the content. It makes it feel like it's worth it. So yeah, this is it for now. Peace. And that's all, folks, except it's not time for the ending gag.
Prepare to enter the scary door.
So, just a note, if you Photoshop a bunch, don't use any Hakuna Matata shirts, because I don't like Hakuna Matata, so.
What you just did is punishable by death.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please remember to leave a comment and share this with a friend or 2 or 5. Click here to subscribe, we really appreciate it. Click here to check out the main collaborator for this video. Click here to check out our video playlist for this video, where you might find similar videos that hopefully you like and enjoy. There's also a credits scroll here, where you can check out all the other awesome contributors. All their info is in the description. That's all I gotta say, KPON!